Hey everybody, this is Panfurware LLC. Let that sink in with Gary George Wilkes.
All right, everybody. Y'all know me pretty much. Judan of JA Creatives Consulting. Me and my little effort to give musicians and creatives financial literacy to the max and make sure that you guys are benefiting as much as possible from all your endeavors in the business. I'm gonna shuck it on over to Eric for him to do his intro now.
Hey everybody, my name is Eric Ziegler. I am a sync licensing agent for Panfurware LLC. So I go through our library and I try to reach out to music supervisors and such and see what songs that we have that would benefit those supervisors. On to you, Anthony.
Hello, hello. Thanks everyone for stopping by. This is Anthony Ferrier, owner of Panfurware LLC, music publishing and placement. We are a music publisher and sync agent and agency, and we help place music. We love music, and we create music. So we are all about music. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, guys. So today we have our lovely composer, Gary George Wilkes. Gary, unmute and say hello.
Hi, everybody. And I want you to know that I'm very happy that you're with us today because I'm a very happy guy when people are interested in hearing me. That's really exciting. And I think all of us feel that way about our music. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm just another composer, another songwriter, and I'm very happy to be here. Anthony knows that.
Well, we are glad to finally get you here on the program with us because, as you know, we're going to be doing this here on Clubhouse Live. And then we're also going to do a little editing, a little snipping here and there, and actually put it out as part of our podcast and up on YouTube as well.
Cool.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, first and foremost, is you go professionally by your full name, Gary George Wilkes. And I'm just wondering, why is it that you decided to highlight your full name?
Well, I think basically, to be honest, I've never been real crazy about my name, Gary. That's not my favorite name, but I like that my mom gave it 2 R's. That gives it some a little originality, although some people don't like to see it that way, because I think it should be 1 R. But I like the spelling, but I feel really, I'm very, deep in my heart, I love the name George because it's my grandfather's name was Eric George Wallin, and he came in steerage in the early 1900s from Sweden. He made his living tearing his hands up, pulling up nets of fish in Astoria. And then he'd come into Portland and work at another job during when he wasn't in the fishing season. And I'm just real proud to carry that name forward, George. So I didn't want to change my name to George Wilkes. I considered all my options. I think Gary Wilkes, people have told me it sounds okay. I think Gary George Wilkes sounds just a little more, for me, a little more professional or a little more. It's like the only example I can think of is why does Andrew Lloyd Webber use all three words? Why is it Andrew Lloyd Webber? I'm Gary George Wilkes for the same reason he is. I can't. He's Andrew Lloyd Webber. I can't put my fingers completely around it, but I just feel like when it comes, that's a really good question because I've always been Gary Wilkes. Even there's people in my family. My two brothers have always called me George Wilkes, always, and they just call me George. Period. Even today, and so I just think thought about it really hard, and especially when I made the switch back from rock music to classical music. I just thought that Gary George Wilkes had a really cool sound to it, and basically that's how it happened.
And sometimes that's all we need. Just ask the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, you got that right. Can you explain that to me, by the way? What in the heck are you talking about?
Oh, nobody ever knows what I'm talking about, Gary. You know that.
I
So
know.
I'm really impressed to hear that you're like second generation deadliest catch kind of guy.
What does that mean?
The TV show, The Deadliest Catch, where they follow the deep sea fishermen out into
Oh
like
yeah,
the icy
yeah,
places. That's basically what your grandfather was doing.
yeah. Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah,
what he was doing.
that's very cool. Very, very cool that you can trace
It,
all that back.
it's really, really hard work. And
Hmm.
my mom said his hands were cut up every night he went home from work because they didn't wear gloves when they brought up those nets on those ropes.
Oh yeah, I can
And
only imagine how much has changed since your grandfather's time at the
yeah,
turn of the century.
can you
So
believe it?
yeah.
No gloves, and
Well, yeah.
pulling
Plus,
up
they
these
have all
big
kinds of
nets.
machinery. Yeah,
Yeah.
they have machinery now to pull those
Oh
things
yeah,
up.
I
So
know. I
yeah.
know. It's a
Okay. So,
cush job compared to what my grandpa did.
absolutely. So let's get back on track here. Where is it that you call home? Are you still in the Pacific Northwest?
I'm in Portland, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest. Portland, Oregon is my home,
Very
and I
cool. Very, very cool.
probably always will be. But you never know, but I probably always will be.
That's cool. And how many years have you been in music?
I started composing music when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Look at you, you prodigy, you.
Yeah, I played classical music. Uh, I worshipped Mozart, um, and I just got a little help from my mom and a little help from my grandma. My grandma was an established church organist, and she was really good. And there's a couple other relatives I have that are really good at music, really good. So it's in the family,
Mm,
and yeah,
okay. Now, Anthony always likes to ask everybody, which PRO are you with?
I am with BMI.
Okay. Did you choose them for any particular reason?
Yes, I did. I
And
saw
that would be.
I saw ASCAP as the more formal organization, and I saw like my favorite band was Pink Floyd and still is. Uh, they were BMI, so I wanted to be BMI.
There are worse reasons for doing things in this life.
Yeah, I know it
So,
doesn't make much sense, does it? But that's just
no. We,
it. I was so into Pink Floyd. If they, and ASCAP just seems so formal to me. I know that's probably
mhm,
not true, but BMI was kind of like also the little brother of ASCAP at
mhm.
first anyway. I think it's grown quite a bit, but
Oh, yeah.
I never look back about BMI. I'm very happy with that.
Oh, very cool. And so, since you touched on Pink Floyd already, who are your musical influences?
My musical influences
Mm-hmm.
started with Mozart. And then when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, I saw them the first time they were on in February, I think 7th, 1964. I was about almost 10 years old. And I was just blown away by the Beatles. I mean, I wasn't screaming like the young girls were, but you know, I'm a guy for crying out loud. But I really felt blown away by the Beatles, especially Paul McCartney. And I look back, you know, I've seen, I don't know if you've seen that documentary, Peter Jackson's documentary, The Beatles Get Back.
I've
That
seen a little bit of it. I still have to
that
finish it.
is extremely interesting to me because I'd never
Mm-hmm.
seen the Beatles actually how they interacted when they worked. I'd heard some horror stories, but all I'm seeing is just a bunch of guys that really like hanging out together. And but and I like McCartney, but I have better feelings about John Lennon's ability and George Harrison's ability, and I think Ringo is a great drummer. So I think I just have so much more respect for Pink or the Beatles and such interest. I watched that documentary about 5 times, and I'll probably watch it 10 more. But it's fun. I like it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing it, and you just inspired me to try and get through it maybe this weekend.
Oh,
So
trust me, it's worth your while.
yeah, I just know that it's 6 hours, and I'm just like, I would be like you, and I would watch it over and over again. I'm like, that's a lot of my time that I'm not going to get back. So
This is a good way. You're right.
yeah, but I think that it's a really valuable experience for anybody with musical interest to see how they work and how they actually were. I
I
mean,
agree.
there's no 100% that it's not quote unquote staged or that they're not acting a part, but I think at some point they must have forgotten about the cameras being around and let their natural personalities come through, which is
I think
just
you're. I think you're right. I think they just kind of they became themselves, and it was
mhm.
kind of refreshing because we got to see them being themselves. What surprised me was this shouldn't be a surprise. I knew Lennon was a little bit controversial, to
Mhm.
put it mildly,
Mhm.
but McCartney I had as a clean cut type,
Oh God,
and
no.
he's saying he's saying some words in that uh, special documentary
Mhm.
that are anything but polite or
Mhm.
nice. Uh, there's one that I would love to say, but I just can't say it. It's too.
No, don't say it because
No,
I know where you're going.
it's too
Mhm.
much. It's
Yeah.
too much, and I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah, you might want to pick up a book by a guy named Larry Kane.
Larry
He was
Kane.
yeah,
Kane.
he's a yeah, Kane. He
Okay.
is a broadcaster here in Philadelphia. He's legendary, and he toured with the Beatles for I think 2 years or something like that. Two of the tours that they did,
Really.
and he has a book out on the Beatles. I forget the name of it, but I read it, and it is just mind blowing. I think you'll love
Really.
it.
Can you give
hmm
me any clues?
It might reinforce what it is that you were talking about with Paul McCartney,
Gotcha.
because Larry Kane is of the Jewish persuasion, and they had a little bit of a conflict.
They did.
hmm
McCartney seemed to have conflicts with a lot of people.
We're not going to delve into that too much more
Yeah.
because,
No, that's
you
fair.
know, we
That's
don't know
fair.
him firsthand. We don't know his experiences and where he's at. But that's the fact of the matter for all of us. We all have our good points, and we all have our faults, and we all have our good days and our bad days, and we're the sum of everything we go through. But we want to at least be able to say, "Ooh, I kind of messed up with that. Let's do better tomorrow." So
Right. No,
hopefully,
I think you make a good point.
yeah, hopefully McCartney has had plenty of yesterdays and tomorrows to make himself um as much the person that we wish he was,
Well,
or that we
he
hope for
was
him to
in his
become.
20s. 20s. He's
Hmm.
79 now.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that he's mellowed, but again, we don't know him, so we don't know.
Nope. We don't know.
So, so back on track, because I'm
Yeah.
sure Anthony and Eric are like, Judan, you and your tangents, man. Get back on track. So I wanted to ask you, do you have any placements, radio airplay, commercials, podcast themes, anything like that for your music so far?
I've had um I've had radio airplay of my
Hmm.
internet radio airplay of
It counts.
quite a few of my songs, and several years ago I had kind of a cult following in Western Europe, and I'm not talking about a huge crowds, but I had quite a few people. I got the royalties for internet plays are minuscule. I mean, they don't pay much anyway. This was like decimals of a penny. You
Hmm.
know, just decimals of a penny. And so I had quite a few uh, gigs and placements. I had quite a few, and I feel fortunate because of that. I also had a lady who had a column in Europe, London at the time, and I think she moved to Ireland. But she did a 5-part interview of me quite a few years ago, and it was she wasn't worldwide famous or anything, but she had a pretty big, she had quite a few thousand followers, and so I had five days in a row where she interviewed me, and I did basically most of the talking, and she took me from my birth to my almost, well, I'm not dead yet, but she took me all the way from front to back, and that was really kind of interesting because I tend to be kind of open, as you've probably already picked up, and I am liable to say whatever's on my mind. I will not tonight. I'll be very good. But
Aw, you're so good to me, Gary.
oh, you bet. But I usually, I mean, sometimes it just depends on the atmosphere. I'm not afraid to say what I want to say, but I got a lot of plays on the radio. Um, I never got any. I've never really worked with the publisher before Anthony and you guys.
Hmm.
Um, I just I've been looking for people. I just haven't been able to find the right people, and I think part of it has been because I don't know how to find the right people. I'm the kind of person that I'm kind of introverted,
Hmm.
so I never. I felt it really hard to meet people that could help me with my music. So I was basically a loner
Hmm.
in a world where you've got to have contacts.
Hmm.
So that's why I love being with you guys, because I sensed something about Anthony when I I've I've been approached by a lot of people that I said no to because they're not, I just don't feel like they're completely right for me. But when Anthony got a hold of me, I think I sent him some songs. He said he said, you know, he's the sounded kind of interested, but he said, you know, you sound like the Beatles, because I was singing and songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have said I sound like the Beatles and Paul McCartney, and I'm going, well, duh. I mean, these are people that I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think I sound like the Beatles, but I've been told I do by a lot of people, and that actually, in today's world, that limits me because people don't want to hear the Beatles. They want to hear new music. So, you
I
know,
don't know that
I
you're
think it's,
accurate there.
pardon?
I don't think you're accurate there. I know many people who are still chomping at the bit anytime Paul McCartney wants to go on the road or puts an album
Really?
out. Oh God, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you know, they say I sound like him. I don't try to, but I don't know. I just get a lot of people tell me, you know, well, you know, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of people out there that'll give you all kinds of reasons why you shouldn't do what you do. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always taken the attitude that because I believe in myself since I was about 6 years old, that
Mm-hmm.
nothing is, I will never give up. I will never ever give up. And always felt that way. And I felt like if I died before I quote unquote make it, I'm happy with that because I'm, I'm, that's my dream. That's my passion. And I've been doing it since I was a little boy, and I will never give up on it, and I never will. I'll say that today again. I will never give up, no matter what happens. I believe in believing in yourself, taking your art to the highest level that you can, and trying to get it out there. Now, not being an outgoing person, I need a representative to do that, and Anthony and Panfurware does that for me. So that's
Right.
why I am so excited that once Anthony heard my instrumental music, which is classical with a little bit of a twist, when Anthony heard that, he offered me a contract. And so I've given him both songs and instrumental music, but in the last year or two, about 2 years, I've just mainly given him instrumental music because right now I'm not even into singing or lyrics or anything. I just I feel really strong about my music because I work with a brilliant orchestrator who finishes my music. I start my music on my keyboard and I compose. And then I give my music to my orchestrator, who's also I consider my sound designer and session producer. And he goes in there and I give him some clues as to what I want to hear, and he gives me pretty much what I want. And
Mm-hmm.
then I am really excited about what we're doing, and I sense from Anthony that he is pretty happy with what we're doing. That's what I sense, and I just want to. I think that I need people like you to take people like me and give me a chance. And that's why I'm so excited about being with Panfurware.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
love having you. We love working with you. Hey, Eric, go ahead.
Hey, I wanted to jump in real quick. Um, about especially about the Beatles. So the Beatles, everybody wants them, but nobody can afford them. Uh, and so it's actually kind of a good thing if you can have a similar sound to that, because
Really?
then you all of a sudden become in reach. That was just kind of my 2 cents I wanted to throw in there.
Okay, so you're saying it's okay to sound like the
I
Beatles.
mean, obviously not exactly, but if you can get that realm, if you can get into that kind of sound, that kind of feel,
Right.
I'm just the Beatles are notorious for being very expensive to place.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
everybody wants. There's so many people that want it. So
Okay.
yeah, if you can get into that realm, if you can, if you have a sound that's similar, then that's actually can be of to your benefit.
Okay. I appreciate that, Eric.
Yeah, a lot of times when the briefs come out, they'll give you the crazy explanation about what they're looking for, and then there'll be something that sounds like, and they'll either give you an artist or a specific song. So if they're looking for something that sounds like a Beatles song, like Revolution or something like that, then
Right.
you can certainly take that as a note for whatever it is you're creating.
Right.
So because, as Eric was saying, depending on the budget for the movie, they don't have necessarily the, what would it be, like $250,000 to pay McCartney and Lennon's estate to use Revolution, whereas they're more than happy to give you 50 grand to use whatever it is that you're going to give them.
Right. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah,
Makes sense.
so those are the kind of things that they sometimes look for. And if you watch movies and you see somebody doing a version of somebody else's song, like what was the movie out a few years ago that was like a reimagination of what if the Beatles were never the Beatles and only one guy ever knew the Beatles songs and he just put them forth as his own.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember hearing that. I don't remember the name, but I remember hearing about that movie.
yeah, so whoever did the actual recording of the music that was used as the Beatles music for that um, movie, they got a different fee than actually using the Beatles music.
Right.
So
It makes sense.
that that's a lot of times why covers actually get used is because it's an economic thing
Right.
for the movie budget. So with that, I wanted to ask you because long ago and far away we had a conversation about having you perform live. We were going to do it through Facebook during the pandemic, and I
Yes.
remember while we were doing the equipment bit for that, you were and Anthony were talking about the keyboard sounds that you have, and there was one sound that you're in love with that you use for just about everything. And I can't
Yes.
remember exactly what it is, but I know that Colleen made a huge investment in some orchestra instruments sounds for her studio setup. So I wanted to kind of touch on that a little bit. What are your favorite sounds that you use for composing?
Well, when I compose, I compose on a keyboard, and I usually you can have it's a Yamaha that sounds almost like a grand piano, but it's a great piano. But there's also little different buttons for different sounds, and there's a strings button that I use a lot. It just inspires me. And then I just and I'm talking about my instrumental music is where I'm really at right now. So it's great talking about the Beatles, and I might get back to that. But right now, I'm really, really excited about my instrumental music. Um, so I I use a Yamaha keyboard to get a decent strings type sound, and then I give that to my orchestrator. Does everybody know what an orchestrator is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, um, I give that to my orchestrator, who's was actually he trained at the Curtis School of Music in Philadelphia.
Oh, the Curtis Institute?
Yes, and it the he said only 2% of people that apply get in,
Mm-hmm. It's very exclusive.
and this guy went in as a trombone player, and then he played in the orchestra through all over the world as a trombone player in several orchestras. but he's been through a lot of different, things. But I met him, and I was looking for someone to give me a really special sound, and we've got. He's working on right now. He's working on our 43rd piece of music that could be used for film or television. So these are just 4 to 6 minute songs that are instrumental. And what I've tried to establish as different for our music and my music is we combine classical, and then I have my orchestrator uh, put in really, really heavy duty rock drums, rock percussion, rock bass. So my bottom end sounds like a rock band, and my top end sounds like a classically trained orchestra, because that's what it is. So my sound in the end is a combination of classical music and rock music. The rock being more of the percussion and bass, and um, the classical being the strings and the woodwinds and all the different types of orchestral music. And I think we have, I believe this, I don't know, I'm sure there's other people doing this, but I think it's somewhat rare because I've never heard of it before. Maybe you have, but I just love it, and I pay him a decent amount, but not too much. I couldn't afford it, so I pay him a little bit, and he loves doing it. So that's how I get that sound. But he uses, I'm no technology expert, that's for sure. But he uses a system where they use, I'm sure a lot of people in the audience have heard about MIDI files. He uses MIDIs, and he gets, I swear, it sounds to me exactly like a live orchestra with a rock band underneath. And he is so good. And the music is just, I feel it's out there on the edge. And I'm going to continue to work with him and create a stronger and more intense and beautiful and lovely type of sound. So basically, it's the MIDI type orchestration that's very popular because the average person can go home and do it in their basement. And as everybody knows who knows me, is I don't have a technical bone in my body. So I need to work with someone who's brilliant at that. And I've found that person. And if he ever left, I would find someone else. I've worked with other orchestrators too that are really good. So you just got to find someone. And then we've been working together for so long, a couple years at least. It just seems like things go really, really well when we work together. And so that's basically a long explanation of answering your question, I think. Did I hit on it or did I miss anything?
No, you hit on it, and then you brought in some really good points as well. I'm glad that you went on because I was actually going to ask you, and you went into it. I was going to ask you how much of your work with your orchestrator was um, co-writing, or if it's a work for hire where you're paying him for his services and not giving him writer's credit as a result. So I was just
Right.
curious how you guys work that way.
It's definitely pay for hire.
Very cool.
I own all the rights to everything.